Hi, and welcome back everyone. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can use something called the digital read command. So far in our series, you've seen how we use the digital write command where we can output, but we're going to use the digital read command. And what this will do is it will allow us to grab an input or some kind of signal from, say, a push button. So this program will demonstrate how to grab or hold a digital input signal such as the input from a push button or an infrared sensor, such as the one on the left. We will use a variable of type integer called input to store the sensor input. If the sensor is activated, then the sensor will send out a high or a 1. If the sensor is not activated, it will send out a low or a 0. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. First thing is we need to store the input, and we're going to do that with a variable of type integer. So we've got int here for integer, space, and then we got our variable name here, and we're going to set it equal to 0 to start with. Notice we have a semicolon after that. Next, we're going to set up our void setup function, and we are going to have one output that drives the red LED. We're going to have an input, and that input comes from the infrared sensor. So notice how that this is connected together. If we just zoom in here and take a look, you're going to see that we have the board is powered using 5 volts. So we have this 5 volt to here, and the ground goes to this rail here. And then we have our infrared sensor. And in Tinkercad, this pin here on the far right is the one that's connected to ground, and it shows that here. The middle pin is power, that's connected to 5 volts. And the one on the left is the signal pin. So notice I've put that in green as the signal input going into pin 4 in our Arduino board. Pin 8 is the output, and that's going to drive our LED circuit. And basically, if the infrared sensor is set off, it's going to turn on our LED. So how do we do that with our code? Well, in void loop, what we're going to do first is we are going to read whatever the Arduino sees at port 4. So if it sees a high or low, it's going to store it in this variable. Remember, in programming, whatever is on the right gets stored in whatever is on the left. So it's going to read digital pin 4 and store it into a variable called input. We're going to do a short delay here, and that just helps this so we can see what happens with this sensor. And then the code works like this. We're going to use an if else. If, and then in brackets, the input is equal to 1. In other words, if it's high. Notice when we're checking conditions, whether they're high or low, we have to use 2 equal signs, not 1. We have to use 2 equal signs here. The if condition is followed by open curly brace here, close curly brace here. And if this is true, then it's going to do this here. It's going to go to pin 8 and turn it high using the digital write command, and then it's going to hold it for 100 milliseconds. If it is not equal to 0, it jumps to here, it jumps to else, and it executes this. Notice the curly brace here, curly brace here. It does a digital write. In other words, it keeps the LED off. So in other words, the only way that the LED here turns on is if the input's equal to 1, then the LED here will turn on. So that's what it looks like. Now remember, with void loop, we've got a open curly brace at the start. We got a closed curly brace at the end. Don't forget that one there as well. So let's go ahead and start the simulator and let's try it. Now, We're going to make this a little bit smaller just so we can see here, because when we actually activate the sensor, sometimes the documentation actually gets in the way here. So we're going to move this out of the way. So there. So you can see that when we do activate the infrared sensor, when I click on it, you can see that it shows up here, and it also shows up in our LED flashing. So the if condition, when the input's equal to 1 like it is right now, then it will turn on our LED. If it's equal to something else, then it goes here to the else, and it keeps the LED circuit off. So that's how we can use the digital read command. We're reading an input, in this case here, from an infrared sensor. It could be from a push button, it could be from something else, but that's how you use the digital read command. That's it for this video. I suggest you try it in Tinkercad. See you next time.